Hello again, YouTube. It is everybody's favorite goth BF, TenTillDeath, and we are back again, my fellow baddies. Anyways, as I said in the previous video, if you're probably wondering why, I'm in the same outfit as the previous video, it's because I'm trying to knock out 3 videos in one go, no editing, just so we can have them scheduled and be cleared, for the next couple months and have content ready to go. At the end of the day, I like doing this content, so it is what it is. But let's get into today's discussion already without further ado. Anyways, narcissism. We've all been there. A lot of us have been there unintentionally. Even if you're the most self-aware person, at some point you've been there. I plead the fifth. I've been there a million times. There's a lot of times, we do, hold true to our own word, but sometimes, we accidentally don't hold true on our words. That happens. But what are you doing in your life right now? Are you currently chasing your dreams? Are you currently chasing your goals? If you're not, why aren't you chasing your goals? Why aren't you chasing your dreams? Is it because you don't got the funds or the money to? Or is it because you don't got the energy to right now at the moment? Or is there something else? Let's talk about it. Now, you're probably asking yourself, okay, why did I start off with narcissism? And then I start off, I talk about goals. Well, this is what I've come to find. I've come to find when a lot of people talk about, working towards their goals, there tends to be a lot of narcissism involved. And this is not with everyone, of course. But, and you've probably seen this, because I can go on a whole discussion about this. And there's a good video done about this by psychologist The Healthy Gamer, where he actually talked about this, and it's a very good video. I think you guys should go watch that and check that out. But a lot of times when we procrastinate and talk about things that we're working on or things that we're going to do, but we don't actually do it, our brain kind of recognizes that we aren't doing those things, and we kind of do feel guilty about it. But what our brain tries to do is our brain tries to protect ourselves from that guilt by having us continue to brag about things that we're not actually doing, or brag about things that we're going to do that we know that we're not going to do, as a protective measure for that guilt and stuff, and it's kind of crazy how the brain works. But there's no one else in this world at this moment other than yourself that's responsible for why you're not working towards your dreams. Now, there probably is some dreams, you probably have some dreams or some goals that really are out there, and you probably do need money for it, or you probably do need a very great team. So, for example, if one of your goals is to become famous and outsell Taylor Swift, now, if you can make that possible, bless your soul. But damn, you are going to need some money, and you are going to need a big record label backing you on that, because that is one of those goals that are out there. But, you can always start with the small things. What are you doing right now? For those of you working on your goals, are they big goals? Are they small goals? And if you're not working on your goals, why not? Like I said, are you feeling demotivated, or you just don't got the money? But let's break this down. When we talk about goals, we're not talking about goals like, goal to finish college, goal to, finish working on this video game. Anything that's a goal, whether big or small, is an accomplishment one in of itself. So if you have a goal to learn a new recipe, and you've been spending this last month telling yourself, you're going to learn this new recipe, I'm going to learn this new recipe, but you're not trying to accomplish that small goal, something as small as that, what makes you think that you're going to be able to accomplish those much bigger goals, right? But I want you to know, if you do accomplish those smaller goals, still give yourself a pat on the back, because It really is hard to try to get our brains in this day and age where there are distractions all around us because of the internet and because of technology, to try to get ourselves to stick to our goals. So if your goal is something as small as learning a new recipe this month and you accomplish that goal, give yourself a pat on the back. Be proud of yourself. Be proud of yourself. And you don't have to necessarily go for the big goals like, becoming world famous or finishing college from the get-go, because, those bigger goals, that takes a lot of work. That takes a lot of dedication. But if you start with the smaller goals, you start with the small things such as, okay, this week I'm going to eat one less bag of chips. Or, this week I am going to learn a new recipe. You start with the smaller, more manageable goals, and you accomplish those smaller, more manageable goals, then you are going to be very likely in the future to take on those bigger challenges, those bigger tasks, and you're most likely going to be able to achieve much bigger goals. But you have to start with the smaller goals first. Now, if you're not working towards your goals right now, is it the fear of failure? Because there's two things I want to talk about that. First, I want to talk about the fear of failure, and then I want to use a great example of a former friend of mine. The fear of failure. I think we've all been there. You've probably, one of your goals is finding a partner in the dating sphere, and you've probably failed enough times to where it makes you not want to do it anymore. And the fact of the matter is, when you do fail at a goal or an ambition of yours, it is very likely to cause you to, have some lowered self-esteem. It is very likely to cause you to not want to work on a goal again. Because if you're facing failures like that, it kind of puts your brain in this mind state where your brain tries to protect itself and tells itself, oh, we shouldn't work towards this thing anymore. Or, oh, we shouldn't work towards goals anymore because everything we do fails. And you're beating yourself up bad. And that's also why I say you got to start with the smaller, more reasonable goals first. Because like I said, if you're going for the bigger, more grand goals from the get-go, you're going to have a tougher time. You're going to really hurt yourself. But if you can accomplish those bigger goals from the get-go, hey, congratulations, great for you. But you can't let those failures, permanently bring you down. Is it okay to be down at the moment because you failed at something? Maybe you failed in a relationship. Hey, man, it's okay, be down for the moment, but it's not okay to stay down forever. But like I said, go back to those smaller goals. Whether it's, something as learning one new recipe a week or spending a little less money each week. It's the smaller goals that are more manageable, that are a lot more fulfilling, and then you'll be able to take on those bigger goals. But understand this, you got to fail. You got to fail when it comes to working towards your goals. I'll tell you this personally. I have failed multiple times in a lot of my endeavors. I have failed multiple times in the music sphere. I have failed multiple times on YouTube. But I've also succeeded multiple times. I'll tell you, every time I succeeded, I'm not going to go with every time I succeeded and every time I failed, but good example. This YouTube channel you're currently viewing this on. If you saw what this YouTube channel was back between 2018 to 2022, there was almost no growth on this channel. I could not get people to tune into this channel. Nobody cared. I think only at that time I hardly had any subs. Hey man, we just hit 1K subs by the time you're viewing this. Probably like 2 months ago by the time you're viewing this. And I'm like, woohoo, we hit 1K subs. Yay, we did it, boys. Woohoo. And I spent all those years not being able to do that on this channel. But before this channel, I actually had a meme channel where I easily accomplished 1K subs. And, I went viral on that meme channel. That meme channel doesn't exist anymore. But just think about that. All those years before with this channel, I had to fail pushing out content. And it was much higher quality content. And here I am just doing horrible lighting, just sitting behind on this freaking futon with a horrible phone microphone, just talking to you guys, no editing. And somehow I'm finding more success now. I guess because I'm more relatable now than, with my content back then. And that's the fact of the matter, right? So now I'm seeing a lot more success in that sphere. And then even with, music. I failed in that and I've also succeeded. Good example. I spent months, and some of you guys making music too, you've probably been through this. You spent months working on the best music project of your life. And you release it, nobody cares. Nobody listens. And it is completely demotivating. And that happened to me. That happened to me about 2 years ago. I released, I think it was my I'm Dead As You Hear This album. And I was very proud of the work at the time. Now I look back at it and I'm like, not really too fond of that one. But, put it out, nobody batted an eye, which is so weird because, I really hyped it up at the time, everything I done. And it really kind of beat me down for a minute, It beat me down for a minute and I kind of pretended like it never happened, right? Kind of. But, then I released my most recent album. And that one has been seeing a lot more success than any of my other albums have. It has been one of my best albums, stream-wise. People have been tuning into it, which is kind of a shocker to me. But, I had to fail with that project years ago, so this one could do a lot better years later. But just to understand, you got to fail so you can succeed. Sometimes you got to, fail on a music project you released just so a few years later one of your music projects can fly. And even now, people are actually starting to tune into me now, which is so freaking weird because years ago they did not care. So just understand, you got to fail, whether it's dating, whether it's working towards, moving up in a company. So eventually you can succeed. But what do you learn when you fail? You have to, also when you fail, you have to ask and look at everything that caused you to fail. Did you get passed on that promotion because, you weren't qualified enough? Once you understand the things that you need to work on, so you can at least slowly succeed in that goal or dream of yours, take advantage of it. Ask people for feedback. When I didn't get this higher position in the job that I worked at, I asked the hiring supervisor why, for feedback and stuff, and he provided me a lot of feedback. And I took his feedback and I ran with his feedback in the next internal interview I did. And I done really good in that internal interview. But I understood, taking that feedback from others and whether it's feedback I wanted to hear or not. And I kind of didn't want to hear it, but I knew I needed to hear it. And it's the same with you in music and your goals and your dreams. Take the feedback from people that, can, and ask for an unbiased opinion. Ask for honest thoughts. So you can try to understand where you're failing from other point of views. And I want to give a good example of chasing goals and failing. And, you do not want to be one of those people that talk about things that you're going to do. You're going to talk about things about how you're going to become rich. And then you never do it. There are a ton of YouTubers like that. We call that narcissism. I guess we can even call that procrastination. There's a ton of YouTubers like that in this world. There's a ton of young men, younger than me, that I've come to find where they talk about getting on the grind. But most of the time, you guys aren't even actually grinding. You guys are just going to work, putting in 70, 80 hours a week, and then just throwing that money away or something like that. At that point, are you even really grinding? Or you say you're grinding because you're surrounded by a bunch of yes men who are just, giving you validation because you need a ton of validation because you have low self-esteem issues and insecurity. So you think you're grinding, but you're not actually grinding. And I was in that position too. You're not actually working towards your goals and dreams. And I'll give you a good example of a former friend of mine, no names attached, but if you're watching this, you know exactly who you are, buddy. Had a former friend of mine that I met back in 2020 at a job that I worked at. And this man, he's deep into the hustle culture stuff. He is deep into the whole, getting rich stuff, deep into the whole anyone can be rich. People are just lazy. He even told me he could become rich in 30 days. Anyone can become rich in 30 days. And when I kind of called him out on that, he said I was crazy, even though I was just running with his advice, right? Well, met him. We became very good friends in the beginning. He liked what I was doing. I was constantly working on music, and he liked that type of person I was. He wanted to be surrounded by people that were working towards goals all the time, because he considered himself a very ambitious, hustler, grinder person. But at the end of the day, this type of person was nothing more than a procrastinator and a narcissist, and he cannot believe it. Even if you ask him now, he's gonna refuse to accept that assessment of him. He'll try to step back and be like blah 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 blah. But the fact of the matter is, he's not actually working towards his goals. He spent the last 4 years that I've known him, and it goes back years before I've known him, talking about, oh, I'm working towards this big thing, and talking about the grind that he's working on to become a millionaire. Eventually, he drops that grind, goes to the next grind on how he's going to become a millionaire, drops that, goes to the next grind, and then constantly talks about how people are just lazy, how they never want to chase their goals and dreams. Yet this man finds a grind, chases it for a bit, drops it, then goes on to the next one, and then rinses and repeats the cycle for years on end, going from square one to square two, then back to square one, back to square two, back to square one, never even reaching square 10. Just an up and down, up and down, up and down cycle. And, making himself seem like he's actually doing stuff when he's not actually doing stuff. He's been doing it the last 4 years, and we quit being friends at one point because I got fed up about it. Eventually we became friends again, but this time, I actually saw him putting in effort. Then he fell back into the same cycle again. And it's a shame. It's a shame because people like that exist. Those procrastinators, those narcissists, where they're in denial because truthfully inside they do fear failure. If you're one of those people that aren't chasing your dreams right now and you're hearing this story, and you feel bad about yourself, and now you're hearing this story about this old friend of mine, oh buddy, just be glad you're not one of those type of people, because apparently he's been on his hustle and grind since probably back the time I was in high school, almost 10 plus years ago, which is kind of crazy to think about because he's still down here. And it's so weird because for someone that has spent all of these years telling me about how easy it is to get rich, and this is what was so odd. For years, this person would tell me, oh, I'm expecting to have $3 million in revenue by this month. That month would come, then he'd be like, oh no, I'm expecting at least several million by this month, and month after month saying, it's gonna take off by this, and he's gonna become a millionaire by that. But the fact of the matter is, he's nowhere near that. All he did, man just keeps fear of failure, surrounding himself by yes men, can't, stick to a hustle and can't accept that he's wrong and can't actually focus on those goals and just drops it. And he's still down here at square one. And it's so weird because we started out together in the same place of job. And since that time that I've met him, I went from where I was with him at that same job, and I don't even want to really call it an apartment because it was in a really rundown area, to living in, my own 3-bedroom house and an HOA. Got my own little nice car now, going to school right now. I'm making pretty good money, making better money than I ever have before. And it's so weird because there's this guy that spent all these years procrastinating, making it seem like he's working towards big goals, making it, even telling his mom and his girlfriend all of this time about, when he's expected to become a millionaire, month after month basis for years, making it seem like they're actually working towards nothing. But all these years later, the fear of failure has only caused them to procrastinate. And that's the fact of the matter. They're never gonna get out of that cycle. They're never gonna believe that you know, that they're never going to be able to see the fact of the matter that they're not actually working towards nothing, and that they're never going to break out of the cycle. They'll never be able to actually face the reality and see that they're not actually nothing at the moment. And that's the thing when it comes to working towards your goals. You know, you really got to critique yourself. You got to not fall into those narcissistic tendencies, because I was there too. I understand. But you don't want to be like that guy who's wasted the last 10 years of his life making everyone around him seem like he's working towards bigger things. Letting go of friends, but still being at the very bottom. Lying to your parents, lying to friends, lying to your romantic partner for years on end about when you're expected to become a millionaire. I mean, it's deeper than that, but chase your goals, chase your dreams. Understand, you know, there's going to be times you failed, but actually stick to what you're going to be. Actually stick to those goals. Actually stick to those dreams. Take your time. Start with the small stuff first. Work your way up, but don't be like that narcissist and procrastinator I just mentioned, because 10 years from now, they're going to be nowhere. When I called them out 2 years ago on that, they refused to accept it when I called them out 2 years ago. And you know what they did? 2 years later, they're still in the same position. And what makes it worse is they actually, and this is so sad, they paid a millionaire $2,000 to learn how to get rich. And now they're in debt because of it. They even bought Andrew Tate's Hustlers University. So they have all this potential knowledge on becoming rich and paid a millionaire and all this stuff, and they're still at the bottom. Don't be one of those guys. Tell me your thoughts. You know, tell me, what are you working on in your life right now? Tell me about some of, you know, your setbacks and failures when it comes to, you know, working on your goals. We've all, you know, whether it's financial goals, whether it's dating goals, you know, I want to hear your guys' stories. You know, comment down below. Until next time, peace.